She didn't come to teach. She came to expose the truth.
Hello, friends. You're listening to The School Principal, Part 12, written by Jalal Al-e Ahmad.
One morning, when I arrived at school, the disciplinarian hadn't come yet. Such occurrences were rare, and naturally the bell hadn't been rung either. It was 10 minutes past the bell time, and the teachers were warmly socializing in the office. I myself had suffered from this malady when I was a teacher, but since I had become the principal, I was only now realizing how much pleasure the teachers derived from going to class 5 minutes, no, just 2 minutes, even 1 minute later. They were so insistent on this that it seemed they had become teachers solely for the sake of these 1 or 2 minutes of delay. And they were right. When a person is forced to put on a mask that neither makes others laugh nor brings themselves any pleasure, it's obvious they're just going through the motions. I told them to ring the bell, and the children went to their classrooms, with 2 classes left without a teacher. The 4th grade teacher was buried in plaster in the hospital, and the substitute teacher sent to us still hadn't been able to align their schedule with our free periods. And the 3rd grade teacher, whose ruler had been used for punishment, had gone into hiding a month ago out of fear of the military governorship sending someone else in their place, who hadn't come that day. I sent one of the 6th graders to the 3rd grade class to dictate to them, and I went to the 4th grade myself. Even as the principal, you still have to practice, lest you forget the tricks of the teaching trade. I checked their homework and was teaching Persian reading when the janitor came and announced that a lady was waiting for me in the office. I thought it must be that same idle woman again, who, under the pretext of checking on her child's lessons, visits the school once a week. She was a fair-skinned woman with large, sad eyes and blonde hair. She had a round face and was short. She didn't look 25 either, but her child was in the 3rd grade. The first day I saw her, she had a thin blue scarf on her head, wore an orange shirt, and had applied makeup hastily. She was very happy to see me and was aware of my merits and refinement, but it still hadn't dawned on her that school principals, if not eunuchs, are at least listless and impatient. She had come quite simply to have a word with a couple of men. As the disciplinarian informed me, she had been divorced for a year, and overall her visits to the school were causing trouble. In the middle of nowhere, a school full of clumsy, unmarried male teachers and one beautiful woman, it inevitably didn't add up. So, on subsequent occasions, I brushed her off. But she was persistent. She would ask for the disciplinarian in the office and wait for the bell to ring and the teachers to gather, presumably for some conversation and laughter, and then ask the 3rd grade teacher about her child's progress. When the next bell rang, she would say goodbye and leave. She meant no harm. But I kept thinking how desperate she must be to be satisfied with a school teacher, and how devoid of male presence her life must be, that she so craved to inhale the air that clumsy men like teachers breathed. And it was this very desperation of hers that irritated me more. She devoured the teacher's breath with her eyes. I had seen it. It was as if she was consuming what was mine. Besides, I didn't want her to invade my sphere of authority with this childish self-indulgence, without allowing herself any anxiety or bitterness. I simply didn't want the school to be a place for cultivating the teachers' personalities in that regard either. And now it must be that same woman again, come to visit. And as I went down the stairs, I was lining up offensive sentences in my mind to make her leave the school for good. But when I opened the door and said, surprised, hello, surprise, it wasn't her. It was a young girl of 21 or 22 with a wide mouth, her coarse hair clumsily tied in a bun at the back of her head, and she had seemingly absent-mindedly touched up her face. Overall, she wasn't ugly, but she announced loudly that she was a teacher. I said I was a school principal, and she handed me her decree. She had attended the teacher's training college and had just been hired. They had sent us a teacher. I wanted to say, doesn't the head of the education department know that this place is overly masculine? But I saw no need and thought this would be a variety of sorts. After all, she was a woman, and could add some softness to the harsh, awkwardly boyish environment of the school. I welcomed her, and they brought tea, which she didn't drink, and since we had nothing else to talk about, I took her to show her the 3rd and 4th grades, asking which one she would prefer to take, mentioned the 18 hours of teaching awaiting her, and we returned to the office. She asked if we had any other female teachers besides her. I said, "Unfortunately, the path to our school hasn't been paved for ladies' high heels." She laughed, and I felt it was forced. Then she hemmed and hawed a bit and finally said, thoughtful, "Well, I had heard that you treat your female teachers very well." She had an attractive voice. I thought it was a pity that this voice would be ruined at the blackboard. And I said, "But not to the extent that the school would be closed, ma'am. And you must have been informed that your colleagues themselves have sat down and decided to teach 18 hours. I have no say in the matter." "You have the authority." And I didn't understand what she meant by this, "you have the authority." But it was clear the discussion wasn't about teaching hours. I immediately decided to test her. "Also be informed that only 2 of our teachers are married." She blushed, and perhaps to avoid doing anything else, she stood up and picked up her decree from the table. She was shifting her weight from foot to foot, and I saw I had to rescue her. I asked her for the time. It was time for the bell. I called the janitor to ring the bell, and then I told her it would be better to consult further with the head of the education department, and that we would be happy to have the honor of collaborating with a lady like her. And goodbye. As she walked out of the office door, the sound of the bell arose, and the teachers, as if their hair was on fire, hurried over, and each of them stared after her until she walked out of the school's large iron gate.
The next part of this story will be uploaded tomorrow. What you will hear in the next episode: the story of a school principal forced to choose between saving his superintendent's dying mother and accepting a bribe that would finally unlock the school's desperately needed funds. Looking for entertainment? On this channel, we share Iranian poems, stories, and podcasts in different languages for you. If you are interested in Iranian literature, culture, and tales, this is the best place for you.